We've spent 5 days here down at Presight in Abu Dhabi for their AI Week in partnership with Microsoft. We've been finding all about what Presight has been up to, what it is doing, and this morning we're going to find out what they might do next. Very pleased to be joined by the Chief Growth Officer, Magzhan Kenesbai. Good morning. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor being here.
So before we look at where you and AI are going, let's have a look at where we are in the growth of AI. We have hit a bit of an exponential growth curve, but we're still early days in terms of potential. If this was a 24-hour clock, where are we in AI's maturity?
We're only at the start, to be honest, as we've seen the exponential growth of foundational models, its application into real-world sectors, and the growth of the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure that supports it. We're only in the growth days. You have large announcements coming from all of the largest data center developers. You have large announcements coming from the hyperscalers, astronomical sums of investments going in, and the true value that you will see with them is when they actually realize the setup of all of the initiatives from the US Stargate initiative to the UAE Stargate initiative. So I think you're only at the start.
What are we likely to see in terms of the evolution of AI itself? I mean, your job is to keep an eye on innovation. Where do you see it going?
It's very hard to predict the eventual goal. I think right now what we're seeing from Presight's perspective is applied AI, or what we call applied intelligence, and how do you actually take the foundations of AI, how do you take the models, and then you customize them to specific sectors. And Presight has done I would say, a leading job in this with some of the examples such as Energy AI, our initiative with AIQ and ADNOC, and other applications that we're applying across smart city, public safety, and the financial industry.
Are we going to see more of a segmentation of AI, what's useful, what isn't useful? I noticed that sort of the word of the day at the moment is work slop, which is being used to apply to a lot of the huge amount of content that AI is generating that sounds great and shiny on the surface, but there isn't an awful lot of substance to it. Are we going to start differentiating between what is just volume and what actually has value?
Absolutely, and this is why you see the trend of going into customized smaller scale models specific for given sectors, and you also see orchestration models and the underlying agents that are built on top of them addressing specific needs in various industries. And this is truly the gap that Presight wants to capitalize on, especially in the growing global south.
Okay, let's talk about the global south and your geographic spread. I spoke to the CEO at the beginning of the week. Your revenue overall up about 80% in H1. In the high 20 percentile, we've got your international revenue, which is growing exponentially. Where at the moment is most of that international revenue coming from country-wise?
So we see quite an interesting spread between Southeast Asia, Central Asia, but also the African continent. We're actively present, as I said, in the footprint of the global south, but actively also expanding into Europe with some of the announcements that we've done in Albania and Eastern Europe, and we're very excited into that market and into that geographic sector. We truly think that AI is going to be a global landscape, not only coming from, I would say, the larger partner nations such as the US, and I think we are filling the demand that's growing out of the global south and emerging markets.
Where's the track for you, though? You say into Europe. Where else into Europe and where beyond?
So we want to, of course, focus on the Balkan states, starting off with a successful project that we'll be announcing and already announced and successfully ongoing in Albania. Then, of course, our projects in Central Asia. As you know, we have a very large, our regional HQ office in Kazakhstan with over 50 specialists, and we're developing from compute clusters to the smart city for the capital projects to a joint venture with their sovereign wealth fund, and of course our work in Malaysia and Indonesia for our Southeast Asia, I would say, initiatives.
A lot of those countries that you mentioned would be classified as emerging rather than developed markets. Why are you taking that approach? Because
we see the gap that is needed to be filled there. First of all, we are honored to be part of Abu Dhabi Inc. So we utilize all of the infrastructure given from the UAE. First of all, it's the hypercomputer clusters that we developed, and we can offer them as digital sovereign services or digital AI, I would say, embassies to address the needs of the global south countries. Number two is we can support them financially through ADFD and other financial institutions we support, and the financing mechanisms. And number three, I think the scale of the emerging market and the addressable market that we can truly target is a very unique aspect that is not being targeted right now, and we see a very big potential there.
You're also the man in charge of mergers and acquisitions.
Yes.
Presight's sitting on about 2 billion in cash. What are you going to do with it?
So we have a very interesting inorganic strategy. Number one, we've successfully completed a $350 million acquisition of AIQ, which now gives us a very, I would say, leading position in the energy sector. As you know, that's our joint venture with ADNOC. This right now is quite accretive to our top line. It's accretive in terms of our access to a very interesting market, the energy sector, oil and gas specifically. And now we're into developing, I would say, very targeted orchestration models and agentic flows for upstream and then going into downstream. So that we want to continue that trend, hopefully identify the next AIQ in the financial industry, and then opening up new sectors and new markets. We've also launched our venture fund, our accelerator program. So we do see, I would say, low-hanging fruits into tapping up into the growing AI startup ecosystem that is growing from the global south and capitalizing on it.
So that 100 million fund with Shahrukh,
Yes.
a pipeline for future M&A?
Not only a pipeline for future M&A. What we've seen is twofold. We can capture the opportunity to harness leading teams, leading specialists, leading IP, leading startups through relatively, I would say, climatized multiples, because the multiples in the global south are, of course, very different to the US ones. And we can truly give them the opportunity to go into a global stage. Number one, we give them access to the G42 ecosystem. We give them access to the potential to pitch in front of ADNOC, to the Central Bank of UAE, to various G42 group of companies. Number two, we give them access to our compute infrastructure, which is in high demand from relatively young startups. And number three, we give them the financial gains and the opportunity to come into their cap table. So I think the mixture of all of these three components give us a strategic angle in the global south. I think it positions us to be a true leader, and this is why we partnered with Shahrukh to bring in their venture capabilities. And I think right now you're going to see some quite exciting news into that sector.
We have to leave it there, unfortunately. On that cliffhanger, back for season 2. Magzhan Kenesbai is the Chief Growth Officer at Presight, joining us this morning to talk to us about where the company is growing and some of his plans for that inorganic growth. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.